All right, welcome to this new lesson where we're going to create that prototype interaction that I mentioned before. Okay, so what we'll do is, what I want to do is we're going to take this background here, and we're going to duplicate it, Control D, and then we are going to create a mask on it. So what we'll do is we're going to change here to our rectangle tool. I'm going to left click and drag just between these elements. Now, I'm going to get rid of the fill, or we're going to hide it here, just to make sure that we're kind of right in the center between these two cards, from here to here. All right, so once we're confident that we've done that, we can then go ahead and take this rectangle one, and we're going to put it beneath. Let's adjust this up here for a second. We're going to put it beneath this background here. So let's come all the way down, and all right, so that was at the very bottom. So now we're going to take that element, these two bottom elements, and then we're going to create out of it a actual mask. All right. So now that we have this mask set up, and we can see there's a mask group, we can figure out, let's see here, we want to make sure things are correct. Notice how it's changed already. It doesn't have, it seems like it's coming out more. That's because the opacities are kind of compounding on top of each other. So this is a little bit lighter. What we want to do at this point is we want to make some adjustments to how we want this to change when we hover over it. It's basically going to emphasize that portion or that column of the card. And we were doing that by changing the background. So what we'll do is we're going to take our unsplash, and we can see we have our linear element on top of it, and then our image. So maybe we want to add a little bit of saturation. So we're bringing in colors just a bit. And we don't want to change it too much, because if you change too much, it's going to look a little bit strange. And I think probably right here is a pretty good distinction between the two. Maybe exposure, take it down just a notch. And I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so what we do at this point is we have our mask group, and then we have the element behind it. So essentially, we create a component and a variant out of it. So we'll take this and we choose create component, and then we're going to add a variant. So for now, we're going to move this off to the side, and we're going to add a variant right there. As you can see, it looks a lot different because of the light color background. By default, we click into this, and we're just going to hide everything. Oops, to 0%. Actually, I think that's not the way I want to do it. We're going to double click into this, making sure, okay, yeah. We're selecting the actual image inside of it, and we're changing the pass-through to 0. Okay, so this one's going to be hover. And now, we're just going to push this off to the side. So now what we can do is we can duplicate this, and we're going to put this back here. And if we change this, let's see here. I want to make sure I got this correct. Let's go back to assets rather and just pull this in that way. There we go. There we go. Now we could see hover right there. We can make sure we line this up perfectly. All right, great. So by default, we change this to default. And then over here to prototype, we're going to drag, and we're changing this to hover, so while hovering. And we could change this to smart animate. All right. So now if it worked, we could hit play, and we could hover over it. Now, one thing I don't like is it is on top of these elements here. So we'll go back. right click, we're going to send to back, but not to the very back. So if we go back to layers, I believe this is something we would want to put on top of the existing one. So if we, there we go. And look at that, very cool. So now we have to replicate that entire process for this area over here and over here. So I'll do just one more area so we can run through this process together, and then I'll let you do the final area over there. So again, remember the steps, and to make it easier on ourselves, we'll just go back here and change this to hover. So now we could see that line there. Hide this. We want to make sure this is between these two. All right. So now we will make sure this one, right click, send to back. Now we want to duplicate this just so we have an extra copy. And then we choose use as mask. And then we want to match up everything that was here in this element. So we had, in fact, if we go back and we double click on this, we look at our image, there we go. We had the exposure. Now, unfortunately, we're not able to see the actual values here on these sliders. So this is a little bit tricky, unfortunately. We can't really save this data. So we just gotta have to remember that the saturation's up and then slightly off here, a little bit more so in the middle for exposure. All right, so going back, we have to select, there we go. So now we're going to take saturation right around here. Exposure is down just a bit. Now it does look a little bit strange up here at the top, but this is pretty close to what it was.